Change becomes possible when you stop using pressure, shame, and harsh self-criticism as tools for growth. Many people try to force themselves into improvement by pointing out their flaws and treating their mistakes as proof that they will never be enough. This approach only creates fear, exhaustion, and confusion. Real growth begins when you learn how to guide yourself with patience, honesty, and steady support. This audiobook explores the science of self-growth in a way that is practical, human, and deeply grounded in everyday experience. It helps you understand why self-criticism holds you back, and why treating yourself with clarity and understanding creates the conditions for real, lasting change. You will hear how small actions build self-respect, how gentle self-support strengthens confidence, and how accepting your flaws brings calm direction into your daily life. You will learn why you cannot develop discipline by attacking yourself, why negative self-talk blocks progress, and why responding to setbacks with calm awareness makes you stronger. Each chapter shows you how to make daily choices that help you build a more stable and resilient version of yourself. These lessons are not complicated. They come from simple actions you can feel, see, and apply in your daily routine. As you listen, you will notice how your breathing slows when you remove pressure from your growth. You will feel a sense of relief when you realize you do not need to be perfect to move forward. You will sense a growing confidence as you learn how to support yourself in ways you may have never experienced before. Every idea in this audiobook is designed to help you create progress that you can sustain, not progress that disappears as soon as motivation fades. If you have ever wondered why you repeat the same habits even when you want to change, or why shame never leads to real improvement, this audiobook will give you clear and grounded answers. If you have ever felt stuck because you judge yourself too harshly, you will find a different way forward here. And if you want to understand what actually makes people stronger, calmer, and more disciplined, the insights in these chapters will help you see your life with new clarity. This journey invites you to explore yourself with patience instead of pressure. It encourages you to notice your effort instead of chasing perfection. It shows you how to build a healthier relationship with your mind so that growth feels steady rather than stressful. Stay through the full audiobook because each chapter adds another piece to the larger picture of how real change happens slowly, honestly, and with daily understanding. Chapter 1. Build self-respect by taking small daily positive actions. Building self-respect begins with a simple truth that many people overlook for years. You cannot talk yourself into feeling worthy. You cannot shame yourself into becoming disciplined. You cannot wait for confidence to appear out of nowhere. Self-respect grows from the actions you take each day, especially the small ones you complete when no one is watching. These are the actions that shape your identity, influence your thoughts, and determine how you see yourself when life becomes difficult. This chapter guides you through the real work of building self-respect through daily positive actions that are simple, clear, and sustainable. It removes pressure, strips away the complicated ideas around personal development, and returns you to what actually works, showing up for your own life in small but meaningful ways. Self-respect comes from evidence. When people feel empty inside or unable to trust themselves, it is usually because they have a long history of breaking promises to themselves. They wake up each day with the desire to improve, but soon fall into old patterns. They say they will drink more water, exercise, clean their space, study, or speak kindly, but they skip it once, then skip it again, and eventually lose the internal belief that they can rely on themselves. This weakens their self-respect and creates frustration, guilt, and disappointment. The good news is that this cycle can be reversed through small daily actions that are honest, attainable, and repeated until they become part of who you are. The first step is recognizing that self-respect is not a feeling. It is a state that develops from the way you behave toward yourself. When you treat your commitments as important, You strengthen your inner foundation. When you follow through on even one small action that you planned, you send yourself a message. You matter. Your choices matter. Your daily actions matter. Each positive action, no matter how small, becomes a brick that builds a stronger sense of self. Many people wait for motivation or energy before they take action. They wait to feel confident before they move forward. This keeps them stuck because motivation does not appear on its own. Confidence grows only after repeated action. Self-respect rises from the same process. You build self-respect by choosing something simple and doing it daily. It can be drinking one full glass of water when you wake up. It can be stretching your body for 3 minutes. It can be making your bed. It can be writing one clear sentence about your goals. It can be reviewing your tasks for the day. It can be cleaning a small corner of your room. The action does not need to be impressive. It only needs to be consistent. People often underestimate the impact of small actions because they believe change requires something large or dramatic. They expect a major breakthrough or a huge shift in their personality. Real change is far quieter. It begins with respect for the smallest behaviors, because these are the ones your mind pays attention to. Your mind remembers everything you do. Each time you complete a small positive action, you strengthen the belief that you are capable of showing up for yourself. Each time you avoid an important action, you weaken that belief. Over time, the pattern shapes your identity. If your identity is built on broken commitments, it becomes difficult to trust your own judgment. You begin to question whether you can handle responsibilities or maintain routines. But when your identity is built on simple actions done consistently, you gain a calm and steady self-respect. You trust yourself more because you have clear evidence that you can depend on your own discipline. People often confuse self-respect with perfection. They believe they must never make mistakes, never fall behind, never feel tired, and never struggle. This unrealistic expectation destroys progress and creates unnecessary pressure. Self-respect is not about perfection. It is about consistency. It is about the ability to return to your daily actions even after a difficult day. When you are consistent, you send yourself a message that you are not controlled by moods or fear or hesitation. You act because you value yourself. You act because you value your growth. This understanding removes shame and replaces it with clarity. A practical way to build self-respect is to choose one daily action that is easy enough to complete even on your hardest days. You can pick something that takes less than 2 minutes. If you want to improve your physical health, choose something like doing 10 slow breaths when you wake up. If you want to improve your mental clarity, choose something like writing one clear intention for the day. If you want to improve your emotional balance, choose something like pausing for 1 minute before reacting to stress. These small actions may seem simple, but they create long-term change because they anchor your mind in discipline. Start with one small action and complete it without excuses. Do it for 7 days. Do it even when you feel tired. Do it even when you feel stressed. Do it even when you feel unmotivated. The goal is not to complete something large. The goal is to prove to yourself that you can follow through. After 7 days, choose a second action if you feel ready. If not, continue with the first action until it feels natural. Many people rush the process and add too much too quickly. This overwhelms them and leads to burnout. Building self-respect requires patience. You are creating a new identity piece by piece. This identity will support your future goals, so it must be built slowly and honestly. Another important part of building self-respect is telling yourself the truth. Many people avoid honesty because it forces them to look at their patterns. But truth is not an enemy, it is a tool. When you admit something clearly, such as, "I avoid the gym because I am afraid of discomfort," or "I procrastinate because I fear failure," you gain control. You can address the real issue instead of hiding behind excuses. This honest reflection increases self-respect because you stop running from your inner world. You meet yourself where you are. You acknowledge your strengths, your weaknesses, and your needs. Self-respect grows in the presence of truth. From a Stoic perspective, your actions define you far more than your emotions. Stoic thinkers taught that a person becomes strong not through feelings of confidence, but through habits of discipline and clear thinking. When you wake up and follow a small positive action, you train your mind to become disciplined. You train your body to move even when discomfort arises. You train your emotions to settle even when doubt appears. Each time you complete a small action, you reclaim control over your day. This creates a sense of stability and strength that builds your self-respect. One of the most powerful things you can do is hold yourself to a standard that is fair and achievable. Many people set standards so high that failure becomes inevitable. They declare they will change their entire lifestyle in one day, only to fall back into old behaviors. Self-respect requires realistic standards. When you set a small standard and meet it consistently, you create upward momentum. You feel proud not because the action was large, but because you honored your commitment. Pride in small actions becomes the foundation for confidence in larger ones. Small daily actions also improve your relationship with your own mind. When your mind sees you complete your commitments, it becomes more cooperative. You experience less resistance, less internal conflict, and less self-criticism. Your thoughts become clearer because you are no longer arguing with yourself. You are no longer promising things you do not do. You create an inner environment that feels organized and trustworthy. This sense of order strengthens your self-respect and reduces anxiety. Another way to build self-respect is to notice your wins. Most people are quick to criticize themselves but slow to acknowledge progress. They complete 10 positive actions in a week and focus only on the one they missed. This mindset weakens confidence and creates unnecessary frustration. To improve self-respect, you must actively recognize your efforts. You can do this by ending each day with a short reflection where you list the small actions you completed. This simple practice reinforces your sense of accomplishment and helps your mind focus on what is working. Recognizing progress is not self-indulgence. It is a disciplined act that strengthens motivation and builds internal strength. Your environment also plays a role in building self-respect. If your space is chaotic, your mind becomes chaotic. If your relationships drain you, your energy becomes limited. If your routines are unstructured, your focus becomes scattered. A supportive environment does not require perfection. It only requires intentional adjustments. You can place a water bottle by your bed to remind yourself of your daily action. You can keep your journal in a visible place. You can create a quiet corner where you take your daily pause. When your environment supports your actions become easier to maintain. Building self-respect through small daily actions also teaches patience. Instead of expecting instant results, you learn to value slow and steady growth. Each day becomes an opportunity to invest in yourself. You stop chasing quick solutions and start building long-term discipline. This shift in thinking makes you more grounded and less reactive. You no longer judge yourself based on one moment or one mistake. You see your life as a continuous path of improvement. Real-world examples can help you understand this process. Imagine a person who wants to improve their physical health. Instead of committing to an intense workout routine, they begin by walking for 5 minutes each day. At first, it seems too easy, but the consistency creates momentum. After 2 weeks, they increase the walk to 10 minutes. After a month, they naturally begin to choose healthier meals. Their self-respect rises because they have clear evidence that they can follow through. Another example is someone who struggles with organization. Instead of cleaning their entire home in one day, they choose to clean one drawer. Each day, they clean another small area. After a month, their space looks different and their mind feels clearer. Their self-respect grows because they honored each small commitment. Your small daily actions must be specific. If you say, "I want to improve my life," it is too vague. If you say, "I will drink 1 glass of water after waking up," it is clear and actionable. Specificity eliminates confusion and increases discipline. Each time you complete the action, you reinforce a sense of order in your life. This order becomes the structure that supports your long-term growth. As you build self-respect, you must also protect it. Avoid actions that weaken your sense of trust in yourself. These include overcommitting, procrastinating, and abandoning routines when life becomes stressful. When you respect yourself, you treat your commitments with seriousness. You do not break them easily. You do not make promises you cannot keep. You do not allow distractions to control your day. Protecting your self-respect requires awareness and discipline. When you take small daily actions, you also reduce internal resistance. The mind resists large actions because they seem overwhelming. But small actions are easy to complete. They bypass resistance and create momentum. Over time, this momentum becomes stronger than doubt. You wake up with a sense of direction. You move through your day with greater clarity. You end your day with a sense of completion. This steady pattern strengthens your self-respect and makes you more resilient. Building self-respect also involves accepting that progress is not always visible. Many people quit because they do not see quick results. But small daily actions work quietly. They shape your thoughts, your identity, and your habits from the inside. You may not notice the change right away, but others will. They will see your calmness, your discipline, and your confidence grow. Trust that your small actions are working even when the results are not yet obvious. Self-respect is also strengthened by staying true to your values. Identify what matters to you. Maybe it is health, discipline, kindness, or honesty. Align your actions with these values each day. If discipline matters to you, complete your small action even when you feel tired. If kindness matters to you, speak to yourself with clarity and fairness. If health matters to you, choose one daily habit that supports your body. When your actions reflect your values, your self-respect becomes strong and stable. One of the hardest parts of building self-respect is letting go of old patterns. Many people hold on to habits that they know are harmful because they are familiar. But self-respect requires you to challenge these patterns. If you often avoid responsibility, begin with one small task that you complete each morning. If you often criticize yourself, begin with one daily sentence of truth and clarity. If you often delay decisions, begin with one daily moment of direct action. Letting go of old patterns is uncomfortable, but this discomfort is temporary. What replaces it is a sense of strength and inner stability. Another key aspect of self-respect is learning to show up even when emotions fluctuate. You may not feel motivated every day. You may wake up feeling tired or discouraged, but discipline is stronger than emotion. When you follow your small action despite your feelings, you prove to yourself that you can lead yourself. You become the guide of your life, not the follower of your moods. This creates a deep and lasting self-respect. As your self-respect grows, your life begins to shift. You make choices with more clarity. You speak with more confidence. You trust your judgment. You set boundaries more easily. You hold yourself to a higher standard. You stop tolerating patterns that waste your time. You become more consistent and more stable. These changes come from the daily actions you complete. Each action strengthens your identity and shapes your future. Self-respect also teaches you that you are responsible for your progress. No one can build discipline for you. No one can create your routines. No one can make your choices. You take full ownership of your actions. This responsibility is empowering. It reminds you that you are capable of change. You no longer wait for external motivation. You create your own direction each day. This chapter guides you toward a deeper understanding of how to build self-respect through daily actions. You do not need major breakthroughs or dramatic changes. You need simple, clear, consistent behaviors. You need honesty, patience, discipline, and awareness. You need to treat your actions as evidence of your worth. When you do this, your self-respect becomes strong and steady. Self-respect is built one day at a time. Each day offers a fresh chance to choose a small positive action. Each day gives you an opportunity to prove to yourself that you are committed to your growth. Each day allows you to strengthen your discipline. Over time, these small actions create a life that feels organized, meaningful, and stable. You gain confidence not from achievement alone, but from the calm certainty that you can rely on yourself. Building self-respect through small daily actions is a lifelong practice. It does not end. It becomes part of who you are. You wake up with purpose. You move through your day with clarity. You end your day with dignity. You become someone who follows through, someone who honors commitments, someone who grows through discipline. This is how self-respect works. It grows in the quiet moments. It grows through the smallest actions. It grows through consistency. Your life will change when you begin to show yourself that you matter. Your actions will shape your identity. Your identity will shape your habits. Your habits will shape your future. By taking small daily positive actions, you build a foundation of self-respect strong enough to support every goal you set. You become the person you can trust, the person who stands firmly in discipline, and the person who chooses growth every day. Chapter 2. Strengthen confidence through honest, gentle, and consistent self-support. Confidence grows in a quiet and steady way when you begin supporting yourself with honesty, gentleness, and consistency. Many people try to force confidence by pretending to be strong or by hiding their insecurities, but this only creates pressure and fear. Real confidence comes from a different place. It comes from the way you speak to yourself in difficult moments, the choices you make when doubt appears, and the support you offer yourself when life feels heavy. When you learn to guide yourself with steady encouragement instead of harsh criticism, you begin to build a type of confidence that does not collapse under stress. This chapter shows how to strengthen confidence from the inside in a clear and practical way, using daily habits that settle your mind, steady your emotions, and create a sense of inner reliability. Confidence begins with honesty. You cannot build strength on top of denial or avoidance. When you acknowledge how you feel, what you fear, and what you struggle with, you give yourself a clear view of your inner world. This honesty removes confusion and helps you understand what needs attention. If you feel uncertain about your choices, admit it. If you doubt your abilities, admit it. If you feel anxious about a new responsibility, admit it. This kind of honesty is not weakness. It is awareness. Awareness allows you to slow down, understand the situation, and choose actions that support your growth instead of reactions that come from panic. Many people hide from their thoughts because they fear judgment, but avoiding the truth weakens confidence. Facing the truth strengthens it. Gentleness is the next step. Once you see your inner state clearly, you must respond to yourself with calm guidance instead of punishment. Harsh self-talk damages confidence because it creates an internal environment of fear. When you criticize yourself for every mistake or flaw, you train your mind to expect failure. This leads to hesitation and self-doubt. But when you respond gently, you create a sense of safety inside yourself that allows growth. Gentle support does not mean lowering standards. It means guiding yourself with fairness. If you make a mistake, you do not shame yourself. You reflect on it. You learn from it. You move forward. This approach helps you stay steady and focused instead of stuck in regret. Confidence grows even more when you become consistent with your self-support. Consistency builds trust. If you encourage yourself only when things go smoothly, but criticize yourself when challenges appear, your confidence becomes unstable. To strengthen confidence, you must support yourself in every situation. When you try something new, support yourself. When you feel uncertain, support yourself. When you fall behind, support yourself. When you succeed, support yourself. This steady pattern builds a solid core inside you. You begin to trust your own judgment, your own strength, and your own ability to move through difficulty without falling apart. A practical way to strengthen confidence through honesty is to pause whenever you feel overwhelmed and ask yourself what emotion is present. Many people feel a wave of fear or pressure and immediately react without understanding the source. This creates confusion. But when you take a short pause and name what you feel, you bring clarity to your mind. For example, if you are afraid of failing at a task, admit it clearly. When you say the truth to yourself, the fear loses its intensity. You gain space to think. You give yourself room to breathe. This small act of honesty builds emotional stability, which strengthens confidence. Another practical step is to change the way you respond to mistakes. Instead of criticizing yourself, use the moment as a chance to learn. When something goes wrong, ask what you can adjust. Ask what skill you can build. Ask what habit you can develop. This creates a mindset of improvement instead of self-attack. When you treat mistakes as information instead of evidence that you are not good enough, you remove fear from your growth process. Your confidence increases because you no longer feel threatened by challenges. Gentle self-support also involves speaking to yourself in a clear and steady tone. Your inner voice influences your emotions more than you realize. If your inner voice constantly says you are not capable, your confidence collapses. If your inner voice reminds you that you are improving step by step, your confidence grows. You can create a simple practice where you check in with yourself each morning and give yourself a short message of support. It can be something like reminding yourself that you are capable of learning or that you can handle the tasks ahead. These messages are not empty affirmations. They are honest reminders that guide your mind towards stability. Consistency plays a crucial role in all of this. Confidence does not rise from one supportive moment. It rises from daily support. It rises from showing up for yourself, even when you feel unsure. You can create a routine where you review your progress at the end of each day. Ask yourself where you supported yourself well. Ask yourself where you reacted harshly. This reflection helps you adjust your approach the next day. When you repeat this pattern, your self-support becomes more natural. You become more patient, more balanced, and more grounded. A strong form of self-support is recognizing effort, not just results. Many people judge themselves only by outcomes. If the outcome is good, they feel confident. If the outcome is lacking, they feel ashamed. This creates unstable confidence because it depends on external factors. But when you recognize effort, you strengthen the foundation of your confidence. You remind yourself that growth takes time. You acknowledge that improvement requires patience. You build an identity focused on progress instead of immediate success. This gives you long-term emotional strength. Confidence also grows through small acts of courage. When you support yourself honestly and gently, you feel more secure in trying new things. You can take small risks without fearing judgment. Each time you try something new, you expand your comfort zone. You realize you can handle more than you expected. These small steps accumulate and form a strong inner belief that you are capable of adaptation and growth. You stop avoiding challenges and instead approach them with calm determination. Support also means giving yourself space to rest when needed. Some people weaken their confidence by pushing themselves until exhaustion. They treat rest as failure. This damages the mind and reduces emotional stability. Rest is not weakness, rest is maintenance. It supports your physical balance and mental clarity. When you allow yourself to rest without guilt, you strengthen your confidence because you learn to trust your needs instead of ignoring them. A balanced mind performs better, thinks clearer, and responds more wisely. Another practical method is to observe your self-talk during stressful moments. Notice the words you use. Notice the tone. Notice whether your inner voice is guiding you or attacking you. When you observe your inner dialogue, you can begin to shift it. You can adjust your tone. You can replace harsh statements with accurate and steady ones. This skill takes practice, but with consistency, your thoughts become more supportive. A supportive inner dialogue strengthens your confidence throughout the day. You can also strengthen confidence by setting small challenges for yourself. These challenges should be manageable and realistic. Every time you complete one, you reinforce a sense of capability. It can be something simple, like finishing a task you often delay or speaking up when you usually stay quiet. These small personal challenges help you see your own strength directly. Confidence grows through experience, not imagination. When you complete small tasks that require courage or discipline, you give yourself proof of your ability. Another part of gentle self-support is releasing unnecessary comparisons. Comparing yourself to others weakens confidence because it shifts your focus away from your progress. You cannot build confidence by measuring your life against someone else's path. You build confidence by staying committed to your own growth. When you focus on your own improvement, your mind becomes calmer and your direction becomes clearer. You begin to appreciate your journey instead of chasing a standard that does not belong to you. Confidence also grows when you allow yourself to take slow steps without pressure. Many people rush growth and expect instant change. This creates stress and disappointment. Confidence requires patience. It requires steady practice. When you take slow steps, you give yourself room to adjust, learn, and stabilize. These slow steps eventually lead to large improvements. You become someone who can handle challenges without panic. Gentle self-support includes acknowledging both strengths and weaknesses. When you recognize your strengths, you build appreciation for your abilities. When you recognize your weaknesses, you gain direction. Strength and weakness both guide your growth. Denying either one creates imbalance. Confidence grows when you see yourself clearly and accept all parts of yourself without fear. Consistency creates long-lasting confidence because it forms a pattern your mind can rely on. Each time you support yourself through honesty and calm guidance, you reinforce trust. Over time, your mind begins to expect stability from you. Your confidence becomes internal instead of dependent on external praise. You develop a steady inner foundation that remains strong even when circumstances change. By supporting yourself honestly, gently, and consistently, you create a type of confidence that cannot be taken away. This confidence comes from within. It comes from the way you treat yourself every day. It comes from the steady actions you take, the honest reflections you make, and the patient tone you use with yourself. As this confidence grows, you begin to feel more secure, more grounded, and more capable. You face challenges with clarity instead of fear. You move through life with calm strength. You trust yourself deeply because you know you will support yourself through every situation. Chapter 3. Accept your flaws and choose steady improvement every day. Accepting your flaws is one of the most important steps in creating steady improvement because it allows you to understand yourself without fear or denial. Many people struggle for years because they attempt to grow while rejecting the parts of themselves that need the most attention. They hide their weaknesses, avoid their insecurities, and constantly compare themselves to others who seem more capable. This approach traps them in frustration and slows progress. Real growth begins when you stop resisting your imperfections and start facing them with honesty. When you allow yourself to see your flaws clearly, without shame or judgment, you finally gain the clarity needed to create meaningful and lasting change. Accepting your flaws should not be confused with giving up on improvement. It simply means acknowledging where you stand right now with accuracy. You are not pretending to be perfect, and you are not attacking yourself for your mistakes. You are observing your patterns, your habits, and your limitations as they are. This honest observation gives you a solid foundation to build upon. When you know your weaknesses, you can work on them slowly and steadily. When you understand what triggers your negative behaviors, you can begin to change your response. Without this acceptance, you would not know where to begin or how to create progress that lasts. Steady improvement requires a calm mindset. You cannot grow if you constantly judge every flaw as proof that something is wrong with you. Criticism drains motivation and creates fear around trying new things. Improvement becomes possible when you treat your flaws as signals instead of personal failures. If you struggle with patience, it means you need to develop emotional control. If you avoid responsibility, it means you need to strengthen discipline. If you get overwhelmed easily, it means you need better structure. Each flaw points to an area that needs attention, not to a flaw in your worth. When you see your flaws this way, you approach growth with clarity and determination. Another important part of accepting your flaws is understanding that they are part of the human experience. Every person has weaknesses. Every person makes mistakes. Every person struggles with habits they wish they could change. You are not alone in this. Instead of believing that your flaws separate you from others, recognize that they connect you to everyone else who is also learning and evolving. When you accept that imperfection is normal, you stop treating yourself like an exception who must hide or pretend. This reduces pressure and helps you focus on improvement instead of shame. To accept your flaws, begin by noticing the patterns you repeat without avoiding them. Observe how you behave in stressful situations. Observe what habits appear when you feel uncertain or overwhelmed. Observe how you react when you feel judged. These observations help you understand your inner world with more accuracy. Understanding yourself is the first step toward changing yourself. You cannot improve what you refuse to acknowledge. You cannot create new habits while pretending old habits do not exist. Acceptance brings awareness, and awareness leads to progress. Steady improvement comes from small adjustments, repeated daily. Many people try to transform their entire life at once, but this creates pressure and frustration. Improvement must be steady, not rushed. You can begin by choosing one habit related to a flaw you want to improve. If you tend to procrastinate, choose one small action each morning that you complete without delay. If you struggle with negative thinking, choose a moment each afternoon to check your thoughts and replace the harmful ones with accurate statements. If you react quickly when upset, practice pausing for a brief moment before responding. These small practices gradually reshape your behavior. When you choose steady improvement, you create a life that moves forward even on difficult days. You no longer depend on motivation or excitement to grow. You rely on discipline, structure, and consistency. This kind of growth is quiet but powerful. It builds confidence because you see yourself acting with intention. It builds stability because you are not constantly pushing yourself into exhaustion. It builds self-respect because you are honoring your needs while still making progress. Over time, steady improvement becomes part of who you are. You no longer fear your flaws because you are working on them daily. Accepting your flaws also involves removing the habit of harsh self-judgment. Judgment creates shame, and shame blocks improvement. When you speak to yourself harshly, you increase fear around your weaknesses. You may even avoid working on them because you feel too overwhelmed or embarrassed to face them. To improve steadily, you must approach your flaws with calm and constructive thinking. Instead of saying you always fail, remind yourself that you are learning. Instead of saying you are not capable, remind yourself that growth takes time. This balanced thinking helps you stay focused on progress rather than personal attacks. A powerful strategy for steady improvement is evaluating your progress at the end of each day. This does not need to be complicated. Simply ask yourself what actions helped you improve and what actions pulled you away from your goals. This creates awareness and helps you adjust your behavior the next day. Daily reflection allows you to stay consistent without feeling pressured to change overnight. You learn to notice small wins and small errors, treating both as information rather than judgment. Over time, this reflection sharpens your discipline and strengthens your direction. Another way to accept your flaws is to stop avoiding situations that challenge you. Many flaws remain because you never put yourself in positions that allow you to grow. If you avoid challenges, your weaknesses remain untouched. Improvement happens when you step into situations that require new skills. If you struggle with communication, talk more. If you struggle with discipline, set clear commitments. If you struggle with doubt, take small risks. With each action, you prove to yourself that you can move forward even while imperfect. This proof builds courage and helps your flaws lose control over your behavior. Steady improvement also requires patience. You cannot expect instant change because your habits were formed over years. They will not disappear after one attempt. Improvement demands time, repetition, and willingness to continue even when progress feels slow. Patience teaches you to stay grounded and prevents frustration from stopping your growth. When you stay patient, you begin to appreciate the process instead of rushing toward a result. This calm approach helps you stay committed long enough to experience real change. To accept your flaws fully, you must separate them from your identity. A flaw is a behavior, not who you are. It is something that can be changed, not something that defines you. When you see flaws as temporary patterns rather than fixed traits, you free yourself to improve. You allow yourself to evolve. You release the belief that you are permanently limited. This shift in mindset gives you more energy, clarity, and motivation to grow. Another important part of steady improvement is simplifying your approach. You do not need complex systems, strict routines, or overwhelming strategies. You need clear and manageable steps. When your plan is simple, you are more likely to follow it consistently. Simplicity increases discipline. Discipline increases progress. Progress reduces fear, and reduced fear accelerates improvement. Small steps taken daily eventually lead to significant changes in your behavior, confidence, and life direction. Accepting your flaws also involves taking responsibility for your actions. When you stop blaming circumstances or other people, you gain full control over your improvement process. You understand that your daily choices determine your growth. This responsibility is empowering, not burdensome. It reminds you that every day gives you a chance to choose better, think better, and act better. Responsibility strengthens your sense of purpose and guides your energy towards steady improvement. Another helpful practice is recognizing when your expectations are unrealistic. Many people become discouraged not because they lack ability, but because they expect too much from themselves too quickly. Unrealistic expectations create stress and disappointment. When you adjust your expectations to match your current capacity, improvement becomes easier. You create a pace that supports your growth rather than breaks your spirit. This balance allows you to stay motivated and avoid emotional burnout. Steady improvement also involves monitoring your environment. Surround yourself with influences that support growth rather than reinforce old patterns. A supportive environment helps shape your behavior naturally. When your surroundings are encouraging and aligned with your goals, improvement becomes smoother. You reset your mindset each day through the atmosphere you create around you. Accepting your flaws helps you stay grounded during setbacks. Instead of viewing setbacks as proof that you cannot change, you see them as opportunities to strengthen discipline. Setbacks become moments of reflection, not reasons to quit. This mindset helps you stay committed even during difficult phases. Improvement becomes a continuous journey rather than something you abandon when challenged. When you accept your flaws and commit to steady improvement, you create a life guided by intention rather than fear. You become someone who understands your weaknesses but is not controlled by them. You learn to move forward with balance, discipline, and clarity. You build emotional stability because you no longer hide from yourself. You build confidence because you see yourself improving, step by step. You build strength because you face your imperfections instead of escaping them. The purpose of this chapter is to help you understand that accepting your flaws is not the end of growth, it is the beginning. When you allow yourself to be imperfect without judgment, you open the door to consistent improvement. When you choose steady steps instead of sudden transformation, you protect your energy and ensure long-lasting progress. When you observe your patterns calmly, you create space for healthier habits to form. You become stronger each day when you accept your flaws and commit to steady improvement. You shape a version of yourself that is patient, aware, disciplined, and grounded. And with each small step, you prove that growth is possible, no matter where you start. Chapter 4. Create lasting change by treating yourself with steady patience. Lasting change becomes possible when you stop rushing your growth and begin treating yourself with steady patience. Many people expect immediate results, quick breakthroughs, and instant discipline, but real transformation never happens on demand. It unfolds slowly through repeated behavior, honest reflection, and calm persistence. When you pressure yourself to change overnight, you create stress that blocks progress. When you treat yourself with patience, you create a stable environment where new habits can take root and strengthen. Lasting change requires a steady approach because your mind, emotions, and routines need time to adapt. Patience allows you to continue moving forward without fear of failure or disappointment. Treating yourself with steady patience begins with understanding that growth is not linear. There will be moments of progress and moments of hesitation. There will be days when your actions feel effortless and days when you struggle to stay focused. Patience helps you stay grounded through these shifts. Instead of reacting with frustration, you respond with clarity. You remind yourself that change requires repetition. You remind yourself that setbacks are normal. You remind yourself that each small effort contributes to long-term improvement. This calm awareness protects your motivation and prevents discouragement from taking over. One important part of steady patience is breaking the habit of self-pressure. Many people push themselves with unrealistic expectations, hoping that high pressure will produce faster results. Instead, pressure creates anxiety, tension, and fatigue. Your body and mind function better when they feel supported instead of forced. When you treat yourself with patience, you allow yourself to learn at a pace that matches your current ability. You give yourself time to practice new habits. You allow your emotions to settle instead of demanding instant confidence. This approach strengthens your growth because it aligns with how real change works. Steady patience also involves paying attention to small improvements. Most people only notice large changes, and because large changes take time, they become impatient and lose hope. But every lasting change is built from small adjustments. You might think a small improvement is insignificant, but it shapes your behavior gradually. When you choose one healthy action, one moment of discipline, one thoughtful response, you create momentum. Patience allows you to see the value in these moments instead of dismissing them. Each small improvement becomes part of a larger pattern that shapes your future. Another important part of treating yourself with patience is accepting your pace. Your growth will not match anyone else's, and it should not have to. You may take longer to learn certain habits, and that is completely normal. When you compare your progress to another person's timeline, you create unnecessary stress. Accepting your pace allows you to focus on what actually matters, staying consistent. If you continue showing up each day, no matter how slow the progress feels, your results will strengthen. Patience gives you the space to improve without losing confidence in your journey. Lasting change becomes more realistic when you learn how to handle slow progress. Slow progress does not mean no progress. Slow progress means you are building habits that will stay with you over time. When you treat yourself with impatience, you interrupt the process and weaken your foundation. When you treat yourself with steady patience, you allow growth to deepen. New habits need time to become automatic. New thought patterns need time to replace old ones. New behaviors need time to become natural. Patience protects these transitions and allows them to form fully. A practical way to develop steady patience is to break your goals into clear and manageable steps. Large goals often feel overwhelming, which leads to impatience. When you divide your goal into small steps, the process becomes easier to follow. You focus on one step at a time instead of trying to change everything at once. Each completed step gives you confidence to move forward. This structure reduces stress and helps you stay committed. Patience grows naturally when your goals feel achievable rather than intimidating. Another way to build lasting change through patience is to adjust how you respond to setbacks. Instead of reacting with disappointment, treat setbacks as part of the process. A setback does not erase your progress. It simply shows you what needs more attention. When you respond with patience, you analyze the setback calmly. You identify what triggered it. You adjust your plan. You continue moving forward. This approach keeps your motivation stable and teaches you resilience. Lasting change depends more on your ability to recover than on your ability to stay perfect. Steady patience also means giving yourself time to rest. Growth requires energy, and energy must be renewed. When you ignore rest, you weaken your ability to stay consistent. A tired mind becomes impatient, and an exhausted body cannot maintain discipline. Rest is not a pause in your progress, it is part of your progress. Rest helps you think clearly, stay balanced, and maintain emotional strength. When you treat yourself patiently, you allow rest without guilt and return to your goals with renewed focus. To create lasting change, you must understand that improvement feels uncomfortable at times. Your old habits will try to pull you back. Your mind will resist new routines. Your emotions may fluctuate as you adjust to new patterns. Patience helps you remain steady through this discomfort. You do not expect change to feel easy. You accept the difficulty and continue improving. This acceptance builds inner strength and teaches you how to move through discomfort without stopping your progress. Another key element of steady patience is learning to observe your emotions without reacting impulsively. When you feel discouraged, you pause. When you feel restless, you breathe. When you feel pressured, you slow down. This awareness helps you manage your emotions, instead of allowing your emotions to control your actions. Patience does not suppress feelings. It gives you space to understand them. Understanding your emotions helps you make better decisions and supports your long-term growth. Lasting change requires patience because you are reshaping lifelong patterns. These patterns have been repeated for years, and they cannot be undone in a few days. When you recognize this, your expectations become more realistic. You stop rushing and begin focusing on consistency. You work with yourself instead of against yourself. You no longer demand immediate perfection. You focus on daily improvement. Over time, these small adjustments create powerful change. Patience also strengthens your relationship with yourself. When you treat yourself gently, you create trust. You no longer fear your own reactions. You no longer avoid challenges because you feel unprepared. You begin to rely on yourself because you see that you respond with balance and calmness. This trust becomes the foundation of lasting change. You do not grow through force. You grow through steady support. Treating yourself with patience also helps you stay aligned with your values. When you rush, you lose focus and make decisions out of panic. When you slow down, you make choices that reflect who you want to be. You create habits that match your goals. You build routines that support your well-being. You become someone who moves with intention rather than pressure. Lasting change comes from this alignment between values and actions. Another benefit of steady patience is increased resilience. When you allow yourself time to grow, you develop the capacity to withstand challenges. You no longer fear slow progress or temporary difficulties. You understand that growth continues as long as you stay committed. This resilience protects your progress during difficult periods. You remain steady even when life becomes unpredictable. Creating lasting change also requires eliminating the belief that you must rush to prove something. You do not need to prove your worth through speed. You do not need to impress anyone by changing quickly. You need to build habits that support your long-term well-being. When you release the pressure to change immediately, you free your mind to focus on quality rather than speed. This shift helps your growth become stable and sustainable. Finally, patience gives you space to appreciate your growth. When you stop rushing, you begin to notice how far you have come. You recognize your effort, discipline, and determination. This appreciation motivates you to continue. It creates a positive cycle where patience leads to progress, and progress strengthens patience. Treating yourself with steady patience allows you to create change that lasts beyond temporary motivation. It helps you build routines that stay with you for life. It strengthens your ability to stay calm during challenges. It teaches you how to remain committed even when progress feels slow. With steady patience, you create a version of yourself that grows with intention, clarity, and strength. Chapter 5. Practice self-compassion to break harmful patterns for good. Breaking harmful patterns requires a level of self-compassion that many people were never taught to practice. Most harmful patterns survive because people respond to their struggles with judgment rather than understanding. When you treat yourself harshly every time you fall into an old habit, you strengthen the very pattern you want to break. Shame makes you hide your behavior. Avoidance makes you ignore the root cause, and self-criticism makes you feel powerless. Self-compassion works in the opposite way. It brings awareness, acceptance, and responsibility together in a calm and supportive manner. When you treat yourself with compassion, you create the emotional safety needed to examine your patterns honestly. You stop fighting yourself and begin working with yourself. This is how harmful patterns lose their grip and eventually fade. Self-compassion begins with acknowledging your humanity. You make mistakes because you are human. You struggle because you are human. You have habits that developed from fear, uncertainty, or old experiences, and these habits did not appear out of nowhere. Many harmful patterns formed during times when you lacked guidance, support, or emotional stability. When you understand this, you stop treating your behavior as proof of failure and begin seeing it as a sign of unresolved needs. This shift is essential because compassionate awareness gives you the clarity to address the root of the pattern instead of attacking yourself for the symptoms. Practicing self-compassion also involves speaking to yourself with honesty and kindness. Harmful patterns often grow stronger when your inner voice becomes hostile. Harsh self-talk creates inner tension, which leads to behaviors that provide temporary relief, even if those behaviors are unhealthy. But when you respond to your mistakes with compassion, your mind stays open. You can reflect on what happened without sinking into shame. You can admit the truth without collapsing into guilt. You can choose a new response because you are not overwhelmed by emotional punishment. Compassion gives you space to think clearly, and clarity leads to healthier choices. To break harmful patterns, you must understand what triggers them. Self-compassion allows you to explore your triggers without fear. Instead of blaming yourself for reacting in an unhelpful way, you observe the process calmly. You notice what thoughts appear before the pattern begins. You pay attention to the feelings that make the behavior seem necessary. You identify the situations where the pattern shows up most often. When you do this with a compassionate mindset, you gather information without judgment. This information is the key to change because patterns lose power when you understand the conditions that sustain them. Self-compassion also teaches you to separate your identity from your behavior. People often label themselves based on their flaws. They say they are lazy, weak, irresponsible, or incapable. These labels become part of their identity, and once something feels like part of your identity, changing it becomes difficult. Compassion breaks this false link. It reminds you that a harmful pattern is a learned behavior, not a fixed trait. You can unlearn it. You can replace it. You can outgrow it. When you stop identifying with your harmful pattern, you free yourself from the belief that you are trapped in it. One of the most effective ways to practice self-compassion is to slow down your internal reactions. Harmful patterns often happen quickly, almost automatically. Self-compassion creates a pause. In that pause, you remind yourself that you have options. You remind yourself that you do not have to repeat the old behavior. You remind yourself that you can choose something different. This pause becomes a powerful tool because it interrupts the cycle long enough for you to make a conscious decision. With practice, these pauses become more frequent, and the harmful pattern begins to lose its automatic nature. Another important part of self-compassion is releasing the expectation of immediate mastery. Breaking harmful patterns takes time. If you expect instant success, any small setback will feel like failure. Compassion helps you understand that progress is uneven. Some days will feel easy, some days will feel challenging, but each day offers a chance to practice a new response. When you allow yourself to grow at a realistic pace, you build resilience. You stop fearing setbacks because you know they are part of the process. This resilience keeps you aligned with your goal, even when you struggle. Self-compassion also involves giving yourself credit for the effort you put in. Many people overlook their progress because they only focus on the moments when they slipped. This creates discouragement and reinforces the belief that change is impossible. But when you acknowledge small improvements like choosing a healthier response once or delaying the harmful behavior even briefly, you strengthen your determination. Recognizing effort builds momentum, and momentum helps you continue improving even when change feels slow. To break harmful patterns, you must also create new behaviors that support your well-being. Compassion helps you choose these behaviors because you are not pushing yourself out of fear. You are guiding yourself with intention. When you act from a compassionate place, you select habits that genuinely support your physical, mental, and emotional needs. These habits become replacements for the behaviors you want to break. Over time, the new habits become stronger, and the harmful patterns become weaker. Self-compassion encourages responsibility, not avoidance. Some people fear that compassion will make them complacent, but true compassion does not ignore problems. It simply deals with them without punishment. When you treat yourself compassionately, you face your harmful patterns directly. You take full responsibility for your actions, but you do so in a way that encourages change rather than creating fear. This balanced approach helps you stay committed to improvement without overwhelming yourself. A powerful part of practicing self-compassion is learning to comfort yourself during emotional discomfort. Many harmful patterns exist because they provide temporary relief from difficult feelings. When you learn to soothe yourself in healthier ways, the need for the harmful pattern decreases. You might take a moment to breathe deeply, step away from the situation, or talk through your feelings with clarity. When you comfort yourself without shame, you weaken the pattern's emotional grip. You begin to choose healthier responses more often because you no longer rely on destructive habits to escape discomfort. Another way compassion helps break harmful patterns is by improving emotional awareness. When you are compassionate toward yourself, you pay attention to how you feel throughout the day. You notice tension before it becomes overwhelming. You notice restlessness before it turns into avoidance. You notice frustration before it becomes anger. This awareness allows you to act early, preventing the harmful pattern from taking over. Emotional awareness is a powerful tool because most unhealthy habits come from unmanaged emotions. Compassion gives you the clarity needed to manage them responsibly. Self-compassion also teaches balance. You learn when to push yourself and when to rest. You learn when to confront a pattern directly and when to give yourself time to recover from emotional strain. This balance ensures that your growth is sustainable. Pushing too hard leads to burnout. Avoiding the work leads to stagnation. Compassion helps you stay steady between these extremes. It teaches you to remain committed without overwhelming yourself. Breaking harmful patterns also requires forgiving yourself for your past choices. Many people remain stuck because they carry guilt that weighs them down. Compassion helps you release this burden. Forgiveness does not erase the past, but it frees you from repeating it. When you forgive yourself, you allow yourself to grow without dragging old mistakes into the present. This emotional release gives you energy to move forward and create healthier patterns. Self-compassion supports long-term change because it strengthens your relationship with yourself. When you treat yourself with understanding, you become more open to improvement. You no longer fear examining your flaws. You no longer hide from your weaknesses. You face them with calm determination. This inner trust becomes the foundation for permanent transformation. You stop battling yourself and start guiding yourself. This shift changes everything. Practicing self-compassion makes it easier to choose better actions consistently. You no longer rely on force or guilt to motivate yourself. You rely on care and clarity. You understand that supporting yourself is more effective than punishing yourself. This understanding helps you approach change with stability and commitment. When you practice self-compassion every day, harmful patterns lose their hold. They lose the emotional fuel that keeps them alive. They lose the automatic response that once felt unbreakable. They lose the power to define your behavior. You become stronger because you are no longer fighting yourself. You are guiding yourself with wisdom and patience. Self-compassion is not weakness. It is emotional strength, mental clarity, and practical self-leadership. It allows you to break patterns that once felt impossible to escape. It gives you the stability needed to build healthier habits. It helps you grow without fear, shame, or judgment. And it gives you the confidence to rewrite your life with intention. Chapter 6. Replace negative self-talk with clear, uplifting daily choices. Negative self-talk quietly shapes the way you see yourself, and when it goes unchallenged, it begins to influence every decision you make. Many people do not realize how often their own thoughts discourage them, hold them back, or convince them that improvement is out of reach. This inner voice becomes familiar, and because it feels familiar, it feels believable. But negative self-talk is not truth. It is a set of learned responses formed through past experiences, old fears, and moments when you did not have the emotional tools to protect your confidence. Replacing this harmful inner dialogue requires daily choices that are clear, steady, and uplifting. These choices strengthen your mindset and gradually reshape the way you respond to yourself. Improving your self-talk does not begin with forcing positive thoughts. It begins with noticing the tone you use when speaking to yourself. Many people speak to themselves in a way they would never speak to someone they care about. They call themselves failures for small mistakes, judge themselves harshly for normal setbacks, and create fear by imagining the worst outcomes. This internal language repeatedly weakens motivation. The first step toward changing it is simple awareness. When you pay attention to your thoughts, you see which ones drain your energy, which ones lower your confidence, and which ones trigger hesitation. Awareness gives you the power to interrupt these thoughts before they turn into actions. Replacing negative self-talk with uplifting choices requires clear thinking. You do not have to convince yourself that everything is perfect. You simply have to respond to your thoughts in a truthful and balanced way. If you hear yourself thinking that you cannot handle something, you counter that thought with a clear choice, such as deciding to take one step forward instead of withdrawing. If you hear yourself assuming that you will fail, you choose to focus on what you can do right now. These small adjustments create a healthier inner environment. You are not lying to yourself. You are guiding yourself with accuracy rather than fear. A powerful way to shift your self-talk is to use daily choices that support your growth. For example, instead of telling yourself that you lack discipline, choose an action that demonstrates discipline, even if it is small. Instead of telling yourself that you are behind, choose to focus on the next meaningful task. Instead of assuming that others are judging you, choose to ground yourself in what you can control. Each clear choice replaces the emotional weight of negative thoughts with practical action. These actions prove to your mind that you are capable, which gradually reshapes your inner dialogue. Negative self-talk often comes from old beliefs that never got updated. At some point in your life, you may have been told you were not good enough, or you may have experienced failure that created fear around trying again. These experiences can leave imprints that continue to influence your thinking. Daily uplifting choices help you interrupt these outdated beliefs. When you consistently choose behaviors that support your confidence, your mind begins to release old narratives. You no longer accept the idea that you are limited. You teach yourself that growth is possible and that you are capable of creating a better direction for your life. Replacing negative self-talk also requires slowing down before responding to stressful thoughts. Negative thoughts typically appear quickly and loudly. They push you toward rash decisions or emotional reactions. When you slow down, you create space to choose how you want to respond. This pause gives you control. Instead of allowing frustration or fear to shape your actions, you guide your behavior with clarity. This simple practice weakens the power of harmful thoughts because you no longer react automatically. You act deliberately, which is a strong form of emotional leadership. Another effective daily choice is redirecting your focus toward what is within your control. Negative self-talk often grows when you focus on uncertain results or external opinions. This creates anxiety because your mind tries to solve problems that cannot be controlled. When you remind yourself to focus on your effort, your behavior, and your choices, you reclaim your sense of control. This shift reduces the intensity of negative thoughts and strengthens a calm and steady mindset. Each time you choose to focus on your actions instead of your fears, you train your mind to think more constructively. Uplifting daily choices also include treating yourself with fairness. Fairness is not indulgence, it is clarity. When you make a mistake, evaluate it realistically instead of exaggerating it. When you fall behind, adjust your plan instead of attacking yourself. When you feel uncertain, acknowledge the uncertainty without assuming the worst. Fairness supports emotional balance and helps you stay grounded. A balanced mind does not feed negative thoughts. It observes them, responds thoughtfully, and moves forward. A helpful practice is creating a set of simple phrases that reflect truth instead of fear. These phrases do not have to be dramatic. They just need to guide your thinking in a healthier direction. For example, you can remind yourself that progress takes time, that one difficult moment does not define your ability, or that you have handled challenging situations before. These reminders give your mind solid ground during stressful moments. Over time, these steady phrases become your new automatic responses. Replacing negative self-talk also involves choosing actions that support physical and emotional well-being. A tired body increases negative thinking. An overwhelmed mind exaggerates problems. When you take care of your physical health, your thoughts become more balanced. When you maintain healthy routines, your internal dialogue becomes clearer. Simple choices such as drinking enough water, taking short breaks, getting proper rest, and staying organized contribute to emotional stability. Stability strengthens your ability to think clearly, which reduces the impact of negative thoughts. Another important step is recognizing that negative self-talk often appears when you are stepping outside your comfort zone. Growth feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar situations trigger thoughts designed to pull you back to what feels safe. Instead of believing these thoughts, use them as a signal that you are expanding. When you hear negative thoughts during moments of growth, respond with choices that support your direction. Choose to continue. Choose to stay present. Choose to trust the process. These choices help you build resilience and weaken the influence of fear-based thinking. To fully replace negative self-talk, you must also build self-trust. Trust grows through consistent actions that align with your intentions. When you show up for your goals, even in small ways, you build trust. When you follow through on your commitments, you build trust. When you hold yourself accountable without harshness, you build trust. This trust becomes a shield against negative thoughts because you have evidence that you are reliable, capable, and determined. Emotional awareness also plays a strong role in shifting your self-talk. Negative thoughts often appear during moments of stress, disappointment, or vulnerability. When you notice these emotions early, you can support yourself more effectively. You can respond with calmness instead of reacting with panic. You can choose actions that help you find balance instead of falling into negative patterns. Awareness gives you the opportunity to choose clarity before negativity takes over. Replacing negative self-talk with uplifting choices also involves creating an environment that supports your growth. The people you interact with, the media you consume, and the routines you follow influence your inner dialogue. When you surround yourself with supportive influences, you reinforce healthier thinking. When your environment aligns with your goals, it becomes easier to choose uplifting actions each day. These small adjustments shape your mindset and protect your progress. Over time, your clear and uplifting daily choices form a new internal pattern. Your thoughts become more balanced because you consistently guide them. Your mind becomes calmer because you no longer fuel it with harsh assumptions. Your confidence grows because you support yourself through challenges instead of attacking yourself. Negative self-talk loses its strength because it no longer goes unchallenged. Replacing harmful thoughts is not about perfection, it is about commitment. It is about choosing clarity each day. It is about guiding yourself instead of criticizing yourself. When you practice these daily choices with consistency, your inner voice becomes a source of strength rather than fear. You create a mindset that helps you grow, make better decisions, and move through life with confidence. Chapter 7. Develop discipline by celebrating progress instead of punishing effort. Discipline becomes stronger when you learn to recognize your progress and stop treating your effort as something that must always meet a perfect standard. Many people fail to build discipline because they punish themselves for anything less than ideal performance. They criticize themselves for small mistakes, judge themselves harshly for slowing down, and overlook the many steps they take in the right direction. This creates a rigid mindset where effort becomes a source of stress rather than a source of strength. Discipline does not grow in a hostile environment. It grows when your mind feels supported, encouraged, and acknowledged. When you celebrate your progress, even the smallest steps, you fuel your desire to continue. You create a healthier relationship with effort, and this stable relationship becomes the core of long-lasting discipline. Developing discipline requires a shift in how you evaluate yourself. Instead of asking if you performed perfectly, you ask whether you moved forward. This mindset helps you focus on consistency rather than unrealistic expectations. When your standard becomes daily progress instead of flawless execution, you create momentum. Momentum builds discipline naturally. Progress reinforces commitment, and commitment strengthens discipline. When you punish yourself for not being perfect, you destroy this momentum. You turn effort into something to fear rather than something to value. Shifting your mindset towards celebration instead of punishment leads to discipline that lasts. One of the strongest ways to celebrate progress is to notice small victories. Many people wait for large achievements before recognizing their effort, but large achievements are built from countless smaller ones. When you acknowledge the small steps, your mind begins to see effort as meaningful. You recognize that showing up matters, completing a small task matters, and staying consistent matters. This recognition becomes a powerful motivator. You stop focusing on how far you have left to go and begin appreciating how far you have already come. This sense of progress encourages you to continue moving steadily. Punishing your effort damages discipline because it creates fear around trying. If you know you will judge yourself harshly no matter what, you will naturally feel less motivated to act. Effort becomes associated with shame or disappointment instead of growth. When you replace punishment with recognition, effort becomes something you want to engage in. You begin to associate discipline with empowerment rather than pressure. This emotional shift makes discipline feel like a supportive structure rather than a strict obligation. Celebrating progress also teaches you patience. Discipline is not built in a day. It takes repeated practice, thoughtful adjustments, and consistent engagement. When you appreciate your progress, you stay patient with yourself during slow periods. You understand that improvement takes time. You do not rush yourself or expect unrealistic results. This patience protects your energy and keeps you from burning out. It helps you stay committed even when challenges arise. A practical way to develop discipline through celebration is to track your daily actions. This does not need to be elaborate. Simply noting your completed tasks or acknowledging that you followed through reinforces a sense of progress. When you see evidence of your effort written down, you cannot deny your consistency. This visual reinforcement strengthens your confidence and makes discipline feel more achievable. Tracking your progress also helps you stay honest about what you are improving and where you need more attention. Another effective practice is ending each day by identifying at least one action you handled well. This teaches your mind to recognize effort instead of dismissing it. Even if you struggled during the day, you can find a moment where you acted responsibly, made a thoughtful choice, or kept going despite difficulty. These reflections help you maintain a balanced view of yourself. You stop defining your day by its challenges and begin defining it by your perseverance. This shift builds emotional stability, which directly supports discipline. Developing discipline also requires creating a balanced response to setbacks. Setbacks are not signs that you lack discipline. They are part of the learning process. When you respond to a setback with encouragement instead of punishment, you make it easier to try again. Encouragement keeps you connected to your goals. Punishment creates emotional distance. A compassionate response to setbacks helps you maintain steady effort, which is the foundation of discipline. You can acknowledge the setback, adjust your plan, and continue moving forward without losing confidence. Another helpful approach is to focus on what you can control rather than dwelling on outcomes. Outcomes depend on many factors, but discipline depends on your daily choices. When you celebrate the choices you make, you reinforce the behavior that leads to improvement. You become more grounded, more aware, and more engaged with the process. Each action becomes an opportunity to strengthen discipline instead of an opportunity to judge yourself. This builds a stable mindset where discipline becomes a habit rather than a struggle. Celebrating progress also reduces internal resistance. When effort feels rewarding, your mind becomes more willing to participate. Discipline begins to feel natural instead of forced. You wake up with a clearer sense of direction because you are no longer battling your own expectations. Your mind grows more cooperative. You create a partnership with yourself rather than a conflict. This harmony allows you to stay consistent even during difficult periods. Another important part of developing discipline through celebration is recognizing your improvements in behavior, not just results. If you stayed focused when you felt distracted, that is progress. If you stayed calm during stress, that is progress. If you took one step toward your goal when you wanted to avoid it, that is progress. When you celebrate these internal improvements, you strengthen your identity as someone who is disciplined. Identity shapes behavior. If you see yourself as someone who improves daily, you will naturally choose behaviors that match that identity. Discipline also grows when you learn to appreciate the process itself. Many people focus so heavily on their goals that they overlook the growth happening in the present. Celebrating progress teaches you to stay present. It helps you see each day as meaningful. You begin to respect the work you are doing rather than treating it as a burden. This respect deepens your commitment. You no longer feel impatient or pressured. You feel purposeful. A strong form of celebration is acknowledging your resilience. When you keep going despite challenges, you show strength. When you continue after feeling discouraged, you demonstrate courage. When you maintain your routine during a stressful period, you display discipline. Recognizing these qualities reinforces your belief in your ability to grow. This belief fuels motivation and supports long-term discipline. Celebrating progress also protects your mental health. Harsh self-criticism drains energy and clouds judgment. Acknowledging effort builds emotional resilience. It helps you stay grounded and prevents discouragement from overwhelming your progress. With a healthier mind, you think more clearly and make better decisions. Clear thinking supports discipline because you are more aware of your choices. Emotional stability becomes the foundation for consistent action. Daily uplifting actions strengthen discipline because they focus your attention on what is working. When you consistently choose actions that support your growth, your mind becomes more confident in your ability to stay committed. Each positive choice reinforces your discipline. Over time, these choices become automatic. Your behavior shifts because you have created a pattern of valuing effort instead of criticizing it. Another aspect of developing discipline through celebration is understanding that you are always learning. Even when you struggle, you are gaining insight into your patterns. Even when you move slowly, you are building endurance. Even when you hesitate, you are becoming more aware of what needs attention. Celebrating these learning moments helps you stay open and curious instead of frustrated. A curious mind adapts. A frustrated mind shuts down. Curiosity supports discipline by helping you stay engaged with your growth. Discipline also becomes stronger when you stop demanding perfection. Perfection creates pressure. Pressure creates fear. Fear blocks action. When you value progress over perfection, you give yourself room to improve gradually. This realistic approach keeps you steady. You no longer feel defeated when things do not go exactly as planned. You adjust and continue. This calm persistence is the core of discipline. Ultimately, celebrating progress instead of punishing effort teaches you how to lead yourself with integrity. You learn to honor your intentions, support your growth, and stay loyal to your goals. You build discipline not through force, but through encouragement. You become someone who moves forward with clarity and steady determination. You rely on progress, patience, and consistency rather than pressure and criticism. This approach creates discipline that lasts because it comes from a place of strength instead of fear. Chapter 8. Nurture resilience by responding to setbacks with calm clarity. Resilience grows each time you face a setback with calm clarity rather than frustration or panic. Life will always bring moments that challenge your expectations, interrupt your progress, or shake your confidence. These moments often feel discouraging because they reveal the gap between where you are and where you want to be. But setbacks are not the opposite of progress. They are part of progress. The strength you gain comes not from avoiding difficulty, but from the way you respond to it. When you learn to face setbacks with steadiness instead of emotional turbulence, you build a level of resilience that carries you through every phase of growth. Responding with calm clarity becomes a powerful habit that protects your mind and keeps you aligned with your goals. The first step in nurturing resilience is recognizing that setbacks are inevitable. Many people treat setbacks as signs that they are failing, when in reality, setbacks simply highlight areas that need more attention. When you expect growth to feel smooth, you experience frustration whenever the process feels uneven. This frustration drains your energy and leads to impulsive decisions. But when you accept that progress includes challenges, you remove the emotional shock from the experience. You no longer interpret setbacks as personal flaws. You see them as part of the journey. This acceptance alone reduces anxiety and gives you the emotional stability needed to respond calmly. Calm clarity begins with observing your reaction before acting on it. When a setback occurs, your first response may be disappointment, fear, or irritation. These emotions are natural, but responding immediately can lead to decisions that make the situation worse. Instead of reacting instantly, pause and notice what you are feeling. This pause prevents you from slipping into negative assumptions, self-criticism, or rushed choices. The pause gives you room to examine the situation with a clear mind. When you respond from this place of clarity, your actions become more thoughtful, deliberate, and effective. Resilience strengthens when you shift your focus from what went wrong to what you can do next. Dwelling on the setback keeps you stuck. Reflecting on the next step moves you forward. Calm clarity allows you to evaluate the situation without exaggerating its impact. You can determine whether you need to adjust your approach, improve a skill, or simply give yourself time to regain balance. This forward-focused mindset turns setbacks into opportunities for refinement instead of sources of frustration. Each time you respond this way, you train your mind to remain steady during difficulty. Another important part of responding to setbacks with calm clarity is removing the habit of self-blame. Self-blame adds unnecessary weight to an already challenging moment. It creates emotional pressure that makes it harder to think clearly. When something goes wrong, blaming yourself does not fix the issue. It distracts you from the solution. Instead of saying that you failed, Remind yourself that setbacks happen even when you are trying your best. This balanced thinking supports emotional resilience. It reduces internal conflict and helps you stay focused on improvement. Resilience also grows when you learn to analyze setbacks without judgment. Rather than reacting emotionally, you can look at the situation objectively. Identify what contributed to the setback. Determine whether the cause was within your control or outside of it. Notice what you could adjust for next time. This thoughtful review helps you extract valuable insight from the experience. Setbacks become a source of learning instead of a source of discouragement. Calm clarity gives you the ability to make practical adjustments rather than emotional decisions. Responding to setbacks calmly also requires protecting your energy during difficult moments. When you feel overwhelmed, you may try to force solutions or push yourself too hard. This usually leads to more frustration. Resilience comes from knowing when to act and when to step back. Sometimes the best approach is to give yourself time to settle before taking the next step. A calm mind evaluates situations more accurately. A rested mind solves problems more effectively. Allowing yourself space is not avoidance. It is strategic restoration that strengthens your long-term resilience. Another way to nurture resilience is to stay aligned with your long-term goals, even when short-term progress slows. When a setback disrupts your routine, it can make you question your direction. Calm clarity helps you remember why you started in the first place. It helps you stay grounded in the larger purpose behind your efforts. This perspective keeps you from abandoning your progress over temporary challenges. You learn to stay committed even when the path becomes difficult. Resilience also grows when you develop flexibility. Setbacks often require you to adjust your approach. When you respond with rigidity, you resist necessary change. This resistance increases stress and makes resilience harder to build. Calm clarity helps you stay open to new strategies. It allows you to adapt without feeling defeated. Adaptation is a sign of strength, not weakness. Each time you respond with flexibility, you prove to yourself that you can adjust and continue, no matter how unexpected the situation becomes. Another crucial part of responding to setbacks calmly is understanding your emotional triggers. Certain situations may create stronger reactions in you due to past experiences, pressure, or insecurity. When you understand what triggers you, you can prepare yourself to respond more calmly. Instead of being caught off guard, you anticipate your emotional patterns and manage them with awareness. This level of self-understanding reduces impulsive reactions and supports resilience. You become more stable because you are not surprised by your own emotions. Resilience is also strengthened by maintaining perspective. A setback may feel larger than it is when you are emotionally charged. Calm clarity helps you see the situation accurately. You remind yourself that one difficult moment does not erase your progress. You remind yourself that you have overcome challenges before. You remind yourself that this experience will pass. This perspective stabilizes your mindset and prevents you from magnifying the situation in your mind. A balanced perspective is essential for emotional steadiness. Another practical step is to use setbacks as moments to refine your discipline. When something disrupts your progress, you have the opportunity to practice returning to your routine. This return builds discipline. It teaches you that you can continue even when the path is not smooth. Each time you return after a setback, your resilience grows. You prove to yourself that a difficult moment cannot permanently stop your progress. This internal proof increases your confidence and strengthens your commitment. Resilience also develops when you support yourself with encouraging self-talk during setbacks. The words you use in challenging moments shape your emotional response. Criticism intensifies stress, while supportive self-talk stabilizes your emotions. Speaking to yourself with clarity and steadiness helps you navigate setbacks without losing your direction. You can remind yourself that challenges are temporary, that effort still matters, and that you are capable of handling the situation. These reminders help you stay grounded. Responding to setbacks with calm clarity also involves noticing progress that happens beneath the surface. Not all growth is visible immediately. Sometimes the progress you make is internal: stronger patience, clearer thinking, healthier emotional reactions. These internal improvements matter because they influence how you respond to future challenges. When you recognize this subtle growth, you reinforce your resilience and maintain motivation even during slow periods. Another important part of resilience is accepting that setbacks are useful. They reveal weaknesses you can strengthen, habits you can refine, and skills you can develop. They highlight areas that need attention. When you view setbacks as tools rather than threats, you stop fearing them. You begin to approach them with calm curiosity. This attitude removes emotional intensity and makes it easier to navigate challenges. Resilience also comes from taking responsibility without self-punishment. Responsibility allows you to regain control. When you take ownership of your actions, you empower yourself to improve. When you punish yourself, you disconnect from your goals. Calm responsibility helps you stay focused on solutions rather than problems. This balanced approach helps you remain steady even when facing difficult moments. Ultimately, nurturing resilience through calm clarity changes the way you move through life. You no longer react impulsively. You think clearly before acting. You recover quickly from setbacks because you understand that discomfort is temporary. You trust your ability to handle challenges because you have practiced responding with steadiness. This resilience stays with you, shaping your confidence, your attitude, and your long-term growth. Chapter 9. Grow stronger by choosing healthy habits over harsh judgment. Growing stronger requires choosing healthy habits that support your well-being instead of judging yourself harshly for every mistake or imperfection. Many people weaken their progress because they treat judgment as a form of discipline. They believe that if they criticize themselves enough, they will eventually change. But harsh judgment does not create strength. It creates tension, fear, and self-doubt. Healthy habits create strength because they support your growth from the inside. They help you stay centered, consistent, and grounded. When you choose habits that nourish your mind and body, you build a foundation that makes improvement possible. Replacing judgment with healthier behavior allows you to grow in a way that is steady and sustainable. The first step toward choosing healthy habits is becoming aware of how judgment affects your actions. When you judge yourself harshly, you often feel discouraged, anxious, or overwhelmed. These emotions drain your motivation. Instead of encouraging progress, judgment traps you in cycles of regret and avoidance. When you understand the emotional impact of judgment, you realize that it is not a tool for growth, it is a barrier. Healthy habits provide the opposite effect. They help you feel capable, clear, and balanced. These habits make progress more natural because they create conditions where growth can happen without pressure or fear. One powerful habit that replaces harsh judgment is consistent self-reflection. Reflection helps you understand your behavior without attacking yourself. You can examine your choices, notice what triggered your reactions, and identify what you can improve. This calm awareness keeps you intentional. You no longer repeat unhealthy patterns blindly. You begin to recognize opportunities to make better decisions. Reflection strengthens your growth because it gives you insight without shame. You stay open to learning rather than shutting down. Another healthy habit is practicing emotional regulation. When you learn to regulate your emotions, you stay steady during moments that would normally trigger harsh self-talk. Instead of reacting impulsively or judging yourself for feeling overwhelmed, you manage your emotions in a balanced way. You can take a few slow breaths, sit quietly for a moment, or ground yourself through simple physical actions. These habits calm your mind and help you think clearly. Clear thinking reduces the desire to judge yourself harshly and increases your ability to respond wisely. Choosing healthy habits also involves creating structure in your daily life. Structure gives your mind a sense of stability. When your routines are steady, you feel more in control of your day. This control reduces negative thinking and supports productive action. A structured routine does not need to be rigid. It simply needs to include actions that help you stay organized and focused. This stability prevents your mind from drifting toward harsh judgment because you are consistently engaged in meaningful behavior. Another important habit is practicing kindness toward yourself. Kindness does not mean ignoring your responsibilities. It means acknowledging your effort, respecting your limits, and understanding your challenges. Kindness reduces the emotional weight that often leads to self-criticism. It helps you stay patient with your progress and more willing to continue. When you treat yourself kindly, you create an internal environment where growth feels possible. A kind mindset encourages discipline by making it easier to stay consistent. Healthy habits also include taking care of your physical health. A balanced body supports a balanced mind. When you eat nourishing food, sleep well, move your body regularly, and stay hydrated, your emotional state becomes more stable. A stable emotional state reduces the appearance of harsh self-judgment. It becomes easier to make calm decisions when your physical needs are met. Healthy physical habits give you energy, focus, and strength. These qualities directly support long-term personal growth. Another habit that helps you grow stronger is setting realistic expectations. Harsh judgment often appears when expectations are impossible to meet. When you adjust your expectations to match your current capacity, you reduce pressure and build confidence. Realistic expectations help you take responsibility without creating unnecessary stress. You become more aware of what you can achieve each day, and this awareness keeps you grounded. You no longer chase perfection, you chase improvement. This mindset makes growth more consistent and less draining. Healthy habits encourage you to take responsibility without blaming yourself. Responsibility means acknowledging your choices and taking steps to improve them. Blame means punishing yourself even when you are learning. Responsibility empowers you. Blame weakens you. When you take responsibility with a calm mindset, you grow stronger because you focus on solutions rather than dwelling on mistakes. This practical approach makes change more achievable and less emotionally overwhelming. Another way to grow stronger through healthy habits is to develop daily practices that reinforce balance. You can take a short walk, write a few thoughts in a journal, stretch your body, or spend a moment in quiet reflection. These simple routines regulate your nervous system and help you stay grounded. When you feel grounded, harsh self-judgment loses its influence. You respond to challenges with more patience and more clarity. Over time, this emotional steadiness becomes part of your identity. Healthy habits also include setting boundaries with yourself. Boundaries protect your focus, your emotional energy, and your time. When you respect your boundaries, you prevent yourself from falling into situations that trigger harsh judgment. You learn to say no to unhelpful demands and distractions. You learn to say yes to actions that support your growth. Strong boundaries strengthen your resilience and keep you aligned with your goals. Another healthy habit is practicing honest but balanced self-talk. This means acknowledging areas that need improvement without attacking your character. You can say that a behavior needs to change without telling yourself that you are not good enough. This balanced communication helps you improve while maintaining emotional stability. It keeps your mind in a constructive state. A constructive mindset leads to consistent growth because you are not constantly battling inner criticism. Healthy habits also involve taking time to reflect on your progress. When you observe your improvement, no matter how small, you reinforce your belief in your ability to grow. This belief becomes a powerful force that drives future change. Celebrating progress strengthens your discipline, builds confidence, and reduces the desire for harsh judgment. It creates a mindset where effort is valued, not criticized. Another helpful habit is allowing yourself to learn without fear of imperfection. Growth requires experimenting, adapting, and trying again. When you give yourself permission to be imperfect, you remove the emotional weight that slows progress. You become more willing to try new approaches because you are not punishing yourself for mistakes. This freedom accelerates your growth. You become more open, more creative, and more resilient. Choosing healthy habits also requires letting go of old stories you tell yourself. These stories may come from past disappointments or old beliefs that no longer serve you. Harsh judgment often grows from these outdated narratives. When you challenge these stories, you free yourself from their influence. You decide who you want to become, instead of repeating patterns created by past fears. This mental shift strengthens your identity and gives you a clearer direction. Another technique for developing healthy habits is practicing consistency without demanding intensity. Many people push themselves too hard, hoping that extreme effort will create faster results. But extreme effort often leads to burnout, which then triggers harsh judgment. Consistency is more effective. When you show up steadily, even with small actions, you build a foundation of progress that lasts. Steady action strengthens discipline and reduces emotional volatility. Healthy habits also include surrounding yourself with supportive influences. The people you spend time with, the content you consume, and the environments you enter all shape your mindset. When you choose influences that encourage growth, your inner dialogue becomes healthier. You begin to think more constructively and treat yourself with more respect. These supportive influences reinforce the habits that strengthen your resilience and weaken harsh judgment. Growing stronger also involves giving yourself time. Strength does not develop overnight. Healthy habits gradually reshape your behavior, your thoughts, and your identity. When you give yourself time, you avoid the impatience that often leads to self-criticism. You become more patient with your process. This patience creates emotional stability, which supports deeper and more lasting growth. In the end, choosing healthy habits over harsh judgment reshapes your entire approach to self-improvement. You stop tearing yourself down and start building yourself up. You replace fear with understanding, criticism with clarity, and punishment with responsibility. Each healthy habit becomes a small act of self-leadership. Each positive choice strengthens your character. Over time, these small acts accumulate, and you become stronger not through pressure, but through intentional growth. If you want Chapter 10, I can continue in the same long, steady, grounded tone. Chapter 10. Transform your life by showing yourself daily understanding. Transforming your life begins with the simple but powerful practice of showing yourself daily understanding. Many people try to change through pressure, judgment, and strict expectations, but these approaches only create tension inside the mind. Meaningful transformation requires an inner environment where patience, honesty, and clarity can grow. Daily understanding gives you that environment. It helps you navigate your emotions, adjust your behavior, and stay steady during challenges. When you treat yourself with understanding, you no longer fight your own progress. You guide it. You support it. You allow it to unfold in a healthy, sustainable way. This daily practice becomes the foundation for a life that feels more balanced, grounded, and purposeful. Showing yourself understanding starts with acknowledging your current state without exaggeration or denial. You do not pretend to feel strong when you are struggling. You do not hide your confusion when you need clarity. You do not dismiss your feelings because they seem inconvenient. Understanding means recognizing exactly where you are, so you can respond with intention instead of reacting with frustration. Many people overlook this step because they believe acknowledging their emotions makes them weak. In reality, it gives them direction. You cannot change what you refuse to see clearly. Self-understanding brings that clarity. Daily understanding also means accepting that you are constantly growing and learning. You are not supposed to have everything figured out. You are not expected to handle every situation with perfect judgment. When you accept that growth is a lifelong process, you remove the pressure that often blocks improvement. This acceptance helps you stay calm when you make mistakes. Instead of attacking yourself, you examine what happened, learn from it, and adjust. This approach nurtures transformation because it replaces fear with intention. Each day becomes an opportunity to improve gently rather than criticize harshly. Another important aspect of showing yourself understanding is responding to your emotional needs with honesty. Sometimes you need rest. Sometimes you need structure. Sometimes you need reflection. Sometimes you need action. Understanding helps you identify what you truly need instead of what you think you should need. When you respond to yourself with honesty, you strengthen your emotional stability. A stable emotional foundation supports consistent growth. Without stability, motivation becomes unreliable, discipline feels overwhelming, and progress becomes fragile. Understanding gives you the internal grounding to move forward steadily. Showing yourself daily understanding also means releasing assumptions about who you should be by now. Many people judge themselves based on unrealistic timelines. They feel behind because they compare their journey to others or to idealized versions of themselves. This creates internal pressure that damages confidence and blocks transformation. But when you remind yourself that your path is unique and your pace is valid, you reduce unnecessary stress. You give yourself room to evolve at a pace that supports your well-being. This room is essential. Growth takes time, and understanding helps you stay committed to that time without frustration. Understanding yourself daily includes noticing how your habits affect your mind. Some habits strengthen your clarity, while others weaken it. When you show yourself understanding, you examine your habits without judgment. You identify which routines help you stay focused and which routines drain your energy. You make adjustments gradually rather than forcing sudden changes. This thoughtful approach creates sustainable transformation. You are not trying to overhaul your entire life at once. You are choosing habits that respect your limits and support your goals. Each small adjustment builds stability, and stability leads to long-term progress. Another part of daily understanding is recognizing that discomfort is part of growth. Many people become discouraged when they feel resistance, frustration, or confusion during change. They mistakenly believe discomfort means something is wrong, but discomfort often means you are stepping into new territory. Understanding helps you interpret discomfort accurately. Instead of seeing it as a problem, you see it as growth in motion. This clarity keeps you from quitting when the process becomes challenging. You continue moving forward because you understand that growth requires moments of difficulty. Transforming your life through daily understanding also means acknowledging your effort, even when results are not immediate. Results take time to appear. Effort shows up every day. When you appreciate your effort, you reinforce the behaviors that lead to long-term results. You stop dismissing your progress because it feels small. You stop undermining your commitment because others cannot see the changes yet. Understanding yourself means recognizing that internal progress is just as valuable as visible progress. This perspective motivates you to remain consistent even during quiet phases of growth. Another healthy practice of understanding is giving yourself space to process setbacks without slipping into self-blame. Setbacks are not evidence of failure. They are indicators that something needs to be adjusted. When you approach setbacks with understanding, You examine them calmly. You look at what contributed to the situation. You identify what you can improve. You release what is outside your control. This balanced response strengthens resilience and supports transformation. Instead of feeling defeated, you feel informed. Instead of withdrawing, you realign your actions. Understanding keeps you stable during difficult moments. Daily understanding also involves paying attention to the internal conversations you have with yourself. The tone you use matters. A harsh inner voice weakens your motivation, creates doubt, and prevents you from trying new things. A steady and understanding voice encourages you to learn, adapt, and continue. When you shift your internal language to reflect clarity and fairness, your thoughts become supportive rather than threatening. This shift affects the choices you make, the habits you build, and the level of confidence you carry into each day. Transformation becomes possible when your inner voice helps you grow rather than hold you back. Showing yourself understanding also means respecting your boundaries. You cannot transform your life if you constantly push yourself to exhaustion. Healthy boundaries protect your energy and help you stay focused on what matters. When you understand your limits, you make decisions that support your long-term well-being. You schedule time for rest. You decline commitments that drain you. You avoid environments that disrupt your clarity. These boundaries are acts of self-respect, and self-respect fuels transformation. Without boundaries, your progress becomes inconsistent. With boundaries, your growth becomes steady. Understanding also requires you to recognize your strengths. Many people spend so much time analyzing their weaknesses that they forget to appreciate the qualities that support their growth. When you identify your strengths, you use them to navigate challenges more effectively. You lean on your resourcefulness, patience, creativity, or determination when life becomes difficult. This awareness gives you confidence to move forward. Confidence strengthens your ability to make meaningful changes. Each time you acknowledge your strengths, you reinforce your belief in your ability to improve your life. Another part of showing yourself daily understanding is allowing yourself to slow down when needed. Slowing down is not failure, it is refinement. When you pause, you give yourself a chance to reset your thinking, reconnect with your purpose, and adjust your direction. Many people rush through change because they fear falling behind, but rushing often leads to burnout. Understanding helps you avoid this trap. It teaches you that slowing down supports clarity, and clarity improves decision-making. This deliberate pace leads to deeper and more stable transformation. Understanding yourself daily also means creating small rituals that anchor your mind. These rituals do not need to be complicated. They might include a short reflection in the morning, a few quiet minutes before bed, or a moment of stillness before a difficult task. Rituals help you stay connected to yourself. They remind you to check in with your thoughts and emotions. This habit strengthens your self-awareness, which is essential for transformation. The more aware you are, the more intentionally you can shape your behavior. Another key aspect is treating challenges as information instead of threats. When you face a challenge, understanding yourself means asking why it feels difficult, what skills you need to develop, and how you want to respond. This approach removes fear from the equation. You become more thoughtful and more strategic. Each challenge becomes a chance to refine your character. This refinement is the heart of transformation. Daily understanding requires you to stay present with your growth. Instead of focusing on where you wish you were, you pay attention to where you are now. This presence prevents discouragement and increases your appreciation for your progress. When you stay present, you avoid comparing yourself to others. You stay connected to your own path. This connection strengthens your consistency and helps you remain grounded in your vision. Ultimately, showing yourself daily understanding transforms your life because it changes the way you lead yourself. You become someone who responds to challenges with clarity, treats setbacks with balance, and approaches improvement with patience. You no longer push yourself with fear. You guide yourself with intention. You create an internal environment where growth is possible every day. When you practice understanding consistently, you develop a deeper sense of stability, confidence, and direction. You transform not through pressure, but through steady self-leadership. If you'd like a full conclusion chapter for the entire audiobook, I can continue in the same grounded, long, natural style.